Jeff, the host of the Gridiron.
Fourth and goal to go with the 2. 34 seconds left to go in the ball game. This is the play right now. Takes the snap. Targeted goes in. Targeted all alone. And the cornerback keeps. Wow, what a call. Nobody touched him.
Oh, Brady, welcome to the Gridiron, baby. If you can give this video a thumbs up or maybe share this video, that would be absolutely freaking phenomenal. If you subscribe to my channel, thank you. If not, please go down below, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell icon. That way, next time I go live or if I put a video out, you'll be notified. And it's free of charge. It's totally free of charge. What do you got to lose? But if you are subscribed to my channel, thank you. If you want to help support my channel, at the description box below, very top link in the description box, takes you to my membership page. I got 3 different membership levels. Each one has their own little perks to them. So once again, if you want to help support my channel out, it would mean so much to me. I thank you in advance. Thank you. And finally, just underneath that, there's another link in there somewhere. It takes you to my Facebook group. It's called the New York Giants, the Gridiron. It's my Facebook group. We have over 9,700 members in the group. It is doing simply marvelous, might I add. Basically, if I'm alive and breathing and if I got internet access, I am putting stuff in this group darn near 365. It's called the New York Giants, the Gridiron. It's my Facebook group. Please join it. You will not be dissatisfied. I promise. All right. Well, the OTAs keep chugging along. They had OTA number 5 today, apparently. From what I understand, listen to Big Blue Kickoff Live because those guys. Now, they can only tell you so much. If the media is not there, they're only allowed to tell you so many things. They can say things like Bryce Ford Wheaton had a nice catch along the sideline. Darius Slayton caught one in the back corner of the end zone. Maybe they can tell you maybe who threw the passes. They can say Drew Phillips had a nice pass breakup. Dane Belton caught a tip ball for an interception. They can say certain things, but they can't tell you really a lot. When the media is there, because the media is taking videos and pictures and writing everything down and how many times somebody scratched their left nutsack and all that stuff and posted it online, then they can say a little bit more. But for the most part, if the media is not there, they can only say so much. But they were talking, they said it was not a very entertaining, I guess, shall we say. It was kind of a, I think they, in Big Blue Kickoff Live, Paul Dottino was measured, might be kind of like the least action that they've had so far as with the OTAs, right? But they're chugging along. The next one I think they're having is, I think it's Thursday. The media will be there and they're going to be asking, obviously, they'll be talking to some players and all that. So there'll be a little bit more going on Thursday. But just going along. So, thankfully, knock on wood, haven't heard any, any injuries or nothing like that. Thank God. Right? You're just waiting for those first, so and so came up lame. So-and-so was running a pass pattern, and he came up holding his hamstring, or, we hope it's nothing serious, or, haven't heard anything like that. But they're chugging along. So, but I've seen this one here. I don't remember exactly who OBJ was talking to. But, there was a conversation, obviously, he was having. And one thing he was talking about, and sometimes it's out of your control, right? That he never wanted to leave New York, and of course, it was just it was a bit odd because they just signed him, like whatever it was. I think it says in New York like 7 months prior they signed him to an extension. I think it was a 4-year extension, 5-year. It says in the article here. Signed him to an extension. And, one of the things, and I get it. Once again, you're never going to know with Gettleman. because what he traded to the Browns and what we got in return from the Browns, it was a nice little haul and all that and everything. And we got. So was that, was he like, well, we need to start, because, we stink. We need to start overhauling and start getting some extra players and maybe a draft pick here and there. So if I can trade one stud and get some stuff in return, right, will that help us? Can I get like a 3-for-1 or something, Is he trying to get rid of OBJ because he drew attention? Let's be fair. He drew attention. Okay, but the shame of it was, and that was another one of the shames of it was, especially with OBJ, was unfortunately he got injured. That was kind of interesting, ironic, what funny, sad, whatever you want to call it, that the one game in preseason that he got injured, right, was against the Browns, and that's when he wound up getting traded to, right? But I said, you don't know with Gettleman. It's like, well, we got ourselves a problem, with OBJ, maybe attitude sometimes and all of that. Was he trying to clean up the locker room? See, and then he drafts Saquon. Saquon is, straight and narrow. You know what I mean? Saquon is just like this. Absolute, model team player, model person, model. I mean, just handsome freaking dude, just boom, the man. You know what I mean? And then you got OBJ, a handsome guy and all that stuff. But, but just, some of his antics on the sideline, drawing attention, this, that, was that too much for Gettleman? Don't know. But the shame of it is that, you had, it really helps to have some stars on your team, some big time stars, players, we had a wide receiver and we had a running back, right? And you traded one of them away. It's a shame. No, it was a shame because you'll never know with OBJ because, all the injuries he had. The guy couldn't even last through a whole Super Bowl. Good for you that you got a Super Bowl ring. Very happy for him. Very, very happy. The talent is unfreaking deniable. The thrills that he gave us for the short amount of time that he was here was unbelievable. Unfreaking believable. So I'm so happy for him that he got a Super Bowl. But I'm saying, he couldn't even, I was at the first quarter in the Super Bowl. Second quarter, I mean, I don't. He didn't make it to halftime. I don't think. I couldn't even make it through the Super Bowl. It was just such a shame. The talent was just off the charts. It's just a shame that if you could have seen if he had a longer, healthier career, possibly what kind of numbers he could have put up. Now, I don't think he ever would have caught Jerry Rice or anything like that because Jerry Rice played for God. Well, his rookie season was 85, I think it was. And then he played into early 2000s. So, I mean, he played for darn near almost 20 years. I mean, so nobody's going to, very hard catching Jerry Rice. But he certainly could have put up Hall of Fame numbers had he stayed healthy. Would have been interesting to see, though, right? With the once Eli retired. What's up, buddy? If he stayed healthy, if the Giants kept him, yada, 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 with the quarterback play that we had, could he have kept on his trajectory, with the amount of yards and receptions and all that stuff that he could have had. But it's a shame, but it is what it is. But it was just nice to hear him say, I never, ever wanted to leave New York. And we got a couple articles. There was a ton of them. I mean, you can just, shake a stick and you can find like 10 different articles on it. But it says Odell Beckham Jr. laments the Giants trade. I never, ever wanted to leave. Beckham's tenure with the Giants was outstanding at times, and rocky at other points. Yeah. Now that was the thing. Is what was Gettleman's, It's one of those things, you're never going to, anybody ever going to sit down with Dave Gettleman. So, what was your reason behind trading Odell Beckham? You know what I mean? And then as Gettleman's talking, is that what's coming out of his mouth? Is that going to be the actual truth or, right? Odell Beckham was a sensational player for the Giants. Absolutely. And was on a path to becoming an all-time great statistically before injuries hindered the journey. You got that right. Beckham did create controversy when he was with the Giants. He simulated urinating in the end zone against the Eagles. As I'm saying, that's something. See, Saquon doesn't do that, right? He had a meltdown with the kicking net. Saquon doesn't do that. On the sideline of a game and got into a bitter war with then Carolina Panthers cornerback Josh Norman. Saquon don't do that either. You know what I mean? So was that part of what Gettleman was thinking? We got a nutcase here. I'll tell you what, we wound up losing that Carolina game. That was the year they went to the Super Bowl. But let me tell you frickin' what, that was a heck of a game. Our defense just couldn't stop anything. Couldn't stop nothing. I'll tell you what, the place frickin' erupted when OBJ caught the go-ahead touchdown in the corner of the end zone. He beat Norman with like whatever it was, a minute to go in the game. But of course, the defense couldn't stop that day. So of course the Panthers just walked down the field and wound up winning the game. Anyway, Giants traded Beckham to Cleveland before the 2019 season. So let's not forget, right? For the 2018 season, right? We had Eli Manning, the end of his career, right? But we had Saquon and we had Odell Beckham Jr. We had the three greatest of all time, right? We had the greatest quarterback of all time. We had the greatest running back of all time, and we had the greatest wide receiver. Now, it's not statistically, of course, and all that and everything. Now, you can also, other people. I mean, you can, if you want to go back to Homer Jones. Homer Jones's career average receptions. He was with the Giants, from 64 to 69, I think it was. Homer Jones' career average was over 20 yards. I mean, he caught a pass. You couldn't catch him. But he wasn't quite as dynamic as Odell Beckham Jr. But, I mean, for the one season, right, we had our greatest running back. Now, once again, not statistically, right, but you saw what Saquon can do, right? So I'd have to give him maybe the nod a little bit over Tiki, a little bit, okay? And Odell Beckham, even over Monty Toomer and all that. I mean, Monty's got the most yards and all that for the Giants and everything. But, to me, anyway, you got to give the nod to Odell Beckham as far as being overall talent. Not once again, not statistics because, Monty was with the Giants far longer than Odell Beckham was. But for that one season, we had the three, and then even throw Evan Ingram in there. Now, once again, for some reason, when he was with the Giants, the ball would hit him in his hands. It would go through his hands, and there would be a linebacker standing behind him who would pick the pass off and run it back for an interception. So for some reason, he did that with the Giants, but when he was with Jacksonville, he would catch the pass. I'm not quite sure what it is. I don't know. But for that 1 year, I mean, I said, I'm not saying Evan Ingram was the greatest tight end, but he was a mismatch. He was, he's not better than Shockey or not like that. But as far as being able to run, and he was tough. He was a tough cookie. I said for that 1 year, we had some, But anyway, back to Odell Beckham Jr. The Giants traded to the Browns. He later won a Super Bowl with the Rams and spent time with the Baltimore Ravens and the Dolphins. He appeared on CBS Sports coverage of the UEFA Champions League final because he's a big soccer fan. On Saturday, made clear he didn't want to leave the Giants. Now, he's been definitely seen at soccer matches before. That's for darn sure. I never, ever wanted to leave New York, he said. The reason you heard me talking about what was going on was because I was pissed because where I come from in college, if we lost one game, our season was over, which is true. Not so, Close to that, though. Close. But, the one thing is, you see the way it is now with LSU, right? I mean, if they lose one game, they could still win their division or whatever it is, and then it's whatever the SEC goes up the SEC, and then there's a championship game, and then whoever wins that goes on. You know what I mean? So you can lose a game, but he's pretty darn close. In college, it's sometimes, of course, unless you're Alabama. If you're Alabama, you can lose like 9 games, and they still find some way to get them into the college playoffs. You know what I mean? So other than Alabama, if you lose one game, yeah, you kind of a little rocky. But for the rest of everybody else, if you lose 1 or 2, it's tough to get in there, especially if you're not like in a major conference or something like that. But he said this was the organization I got drafted to. They believed in me. But once again, the Giants, Jerry Reese, believed in him. Jerry Reese wasn't around at the time he got traded. Dave Gettleman was. Not so sure if Dave Gettleman was around in 2014. He was around. He wasn't with the Giants. If he was the GM of the Giants, would Gettleman have drafted Odell Beckham? Who knows? But Reese hit it out of the park. Now, as I said, the only thing he can be a little weird, is that is off the field stuff. So he said they believed in me. So if the Giants went and won a Super Bowl, I would be happy. But deep down inside, I wanted to be the one, no question. He wanted to be the one to help bring it, build the team, bring a Super Bowl championship to New York. He wanted to be the one. So it's definitely, you always hold that. But then someone like me, I went to the Rams and won a Super Bowl. But still, you just want that. Beckham had 390 catches for 5,476 yards and 44 touchdowns in 5 seasons with the Giants. So, I mean, if he played, if he stayed healthy and all of this stuff with the Giants, I mean, it would have been only another few years before he passed Toomer's numbers as far as yards, maybe even receptions too. Toomer was just very steady. He played for a long period of time. He hardly missed any time from what I'm remembering. He's just very steady, He was a Pro Bowler in 3 of those 5 years and was the Offensive Rookie of the Year in 2014, despite only playing in 12 games. And then you look at here, Jerry Rice had 346 catches his first 5 years. Beckham had 390, right? Although we had Eli Manning throwing the ball, they had Jerry Rice had Joe Montana throwing the football. But I mean, you can also look, in 5 seasons, Beckham did miss some time with some injuries. But but Jerry Rice, once again, he played for a long period of time. He was, Jerry Rice was very serious. I think Jerry Rice said something like, after the season was over, he would take like a week off, maybe 2 weeks or something like that, and celebrate or relax or whatever. Then he was back at work, back at the grind, getting ready for the next season. I don't know if Odell Beckham Jr. did that. I mean, Odell Beckham was more like, where can I be seen at today? Can I go see a soccer match? Can I do this? Can I do, I mean, I'm sure, of course, he worked out and all that stuff and everything, but, Jerry Rice, he took that stuff seriously. I remember him talking one time, that he said, after the season was over, he took like a week or 2 off. And then after that, he's back to the grind. So, it is what it is. It's a shame, but sometimes you don't. You can only do what you can do, but once again, if the GM has it in for you, they'll find a way to get rid of you. And as I said, now what you don't know, because they just signed him. Gettleman was the one who signed him, right, to his contract extension. And then 7 months later, they traded him. Right? And as I said, the Giants needed help. Was it let's trade one guy and maybe get three in return, three good players in return, right? 3 for 1. Was it just try to let's see what we can get back in return for him, plus get rid of me? I don't want to say it was a cancer, but get rid of maybe a little bit of a problem child. Once again, things you're never gonna know. But it sure would have been nice if Odell Beckham were, at least even if we didn't win a Super Bowl, we drafted him, just played his whole career here. Really would have been nice, because I'm sure he could have put up some spectacular numbers.